Okay, welcome to Nature's Lodge, Block 7 at Quilters Headquarters, and I am Lori. So today, like I said, we are working on Nature's Lodge. Let me see if I can zoom out. Nature's Lodge, Block 7 is right there. Sorry about that glare. There we go. Maybe that's better. Okay, Block 7. So the first thing that we're going to do is half square triangles. This is our direction sheet, our instruction sheet, and half square triangles and blue. There we go. And so we're going to use 2 of fabrics 3 and 8, 4 of fabrics 3 and 7, and 2 of fabrics 1 and 5. I have them all paired right here, ready to go. And I'm going to use my diagonal seam tape to sew them all together. You can watch if you like or fast forward. You've seen this before if you've been following my series. So I'll piece all these half square triangles together and I'll see ya on the next side. Okay, next I cut them in half. I cut 2 at a time. I don't believe she tells us which way to press, so I'll study that in a minute and I will let you know which way I chose. Okay, so I've cut them all in half. I pressed to the dark, good or bad. I really sometimes just can't look at it and figure it out. So I just press to the dark and hope for the best. And then I trimmed them all up to 2.5 inches. Let me get them where you can see them. Like so. And now I'm just going to sew the blocks together. And we'll see how this goes. It's not going to help me. No. Oh, look at that. I grabbed 2. Don't do that. You saw me do that in one other video. Okay, the fabric 8 and fabric 7 are very close in color. So when you're putting these together, be sure you have the right colors together. So this one is, this color is more blue, it's fabric 8, and this is more green. Right? So this is blue, this is green. So you want to make sure that you have them orientated correctly. All right, and I'm just giving them a quick finger press. I'll take them over to the iron as well and press them. And so I'm folded those that way and pressing this way on this one, and they will nest. All right, so there you go. How about that? All right, I'll give them a quick press and then we'll sew them together. All right, nicely pressed. And I can feel it nest right there. Keep my perfect 1/4 inch seam. Match the corner when I get down. When I stop at the seam and then I match the corner here and just make it work. The stiletto is the key. One of my most favorite features of my Juki machine here, and I have a couple Jukis at home, is the 1/4 inch foot. It is absolutely perfect. It's a perfect 1/4 inch, and unlike some machines that I've had in the past, it doesn't wobble. So the 1/4 inch is the 1/4 inch. So it doesn't wobble like some feet do on other machines. So I really do get a perfect 1/4 inch on my Juki machines. I also have a Juki DX2000 that I use when I want to do decorative stitches or zigzag. It has a very similar foot and it's a perfect 1/4 inch. Just love it. All right, so I'm going to push press that way and get my 4 patch in the middle here. You've seen me do that before. I'll get them pressed and we'll continue on. And there they are, just like that. Well, they match pretty good. Not totally perfect, but you know, I'm happy with them. All right, so what's next on our list here? Next is our flying geese. So we will make these flying geese using fabric 5 and 8, and we'll make 4 of them, and we'll be squaring up to 2.5 by 4.5. So if you've been following my videos, you've seen me do this before. And let's see, what did they say? 5 and 8. So here's 5, 8 is the base, that's the bluish color. And I will be using my wing clipper again today. You've seen this 1,000 times. Won't hurt my feelings if you fast forward through. So I will draw my lines. I'm going to draw my sew lines. Normally I'd use my diagonal seam tape, but it is not long enough to cover the whole length of the square here. So I'll just draw my lines. Easy peasy. I need to advance my lead a little bit. That's better. And then when I get done doing this, I'm going to take that extra bulk out of the middle. You've seen me do that before. Well, I'm just having a time getting that last business of this line right here. There we go. All right, so to take the bulk out, press my wrinkle out of there. There we go. That's better. So to take the bulk out of the middle, I lay my 2 smaller squares down. And I'm going to lay them down in the corner. You want to get them good in the corner, not overlapping like I just had it. So get them down in the corner so they fit perfectly. And I'm just, instead of putting my magic wand where the etched is in the middle, I'm using the edge of the magic wand, corner to corner. Draw this line. Do the same thing on the other piece. I only have to do it to 2 of the smaller squares. And then I'm going to whack those corners off. Just like that. Don't even need a ruler. Just whack it off on the line. Use your scissors, use your rotary cutter, whatever happens to be handy. And then there really is no wrong side of batiks. Well, most batiks. Some batiks you can actually tell. But these batiks are pretty good. All right, so I will lay these down corner to corner. And now I'm going to sew on the lines. Cut it in half. And then I'll take them over to the iron and I'm going to press them just like, just like that. Okay, so next I'm going to sew these into the corner, and I will use my diagonal seam tape here. So when I use it for this, I'm going to put this little V shape right here in the front of the needle, and then I'll follow down the middle line for this. No, I won't. I'll follow this point down the left side. Gotta know what I'm doing, right? There we go. Do as I do, not as I say in this case. Or do as I say, not as I do. I don't know. Do it this way. Start in there, follow the corner here on the left 1/4 inch edge. Do it like that. All right. And the next one we do, if you're using the diagonal seam tape, if you're not using it, then just go ahead and draw your lines on there. So this time I'm going to put the corner of my pieces to the left side, and I will follow right here this V down the middle. There's probably more ways you can do it, and I have done it differently other times as well. So once you use the diagonal seam tape, you'll figure it out too. So that's going right down the middle of the diagonal seam tape. And then we'll cut these apart, press them, and trim them. so we're going to press it like that. And you can see we have flying geese in the making. Okay, so now I have my wing clipper out, ready to go. We will be trimming these down to 2.5 by 4.5. So trying to find the best light for this. So there's my 4.5, my 2.5, and we will lay, can't see it when I do that, can you? So we'll find our corner beam, our corner here. So this line here that goes all the way down is going to lay on the first seam line. And then our 4.5 is going to lay down right there. And this intersection here will meet right at the peak on our flying geese. So just like this. So you probably can't see that on the video, but my first line is on the seam line, the next one there, and I meet at the peak right in here. Maybe I'll turn that light off. Take the glare off. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, and I'll trim up the right side and the top. I'll turn it around, and this time I'm going to lay the good corner that I just trimmed on my 4.5 and my 2.5, and I'll meet one of those X's that meets in the peak. Just like that. Not too shabby. Trim that side up and the top up again. And there I have a perfect 2.5 by 4.5 flying geese. So I will be right back with the other 4 trimmed up, the other 3 trimmed up. Okay, so we have our flying geese made. We have these made. Next up is this very interesting unit called the triangle geese. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to make the triangle geese is to make this half square triangle. The directions are here, so we're going to use the 2 3/4 inch squares and half square triangle directions. So basically we're taking fabric 1 and fabric 5. Our directions aren't real clear with which fabrics, but looking at the pictures, they were both cut at 2 3/4 inches. So we'll go ahead and we'll make half square triangles with those. Okay, so I squared these up to 2 inches. And so next our directions tell us to add the triangles of fabric 1 and 9 to the half square triangles in the numbered order below. So I'm going to take fabric 1, which we had cut at 2.5 inches, right? And I'm going to cut these in half so I have triangles, and then I'm going to add them first to the left side and then to the right side, and then we'll square that up. Then I'll add the fabric 9. I'll cut these in half so I have triangles. Remember, I don't do that until I'm ready to use them, just so they don't stretch. And then I'll add those to this side and then this side. So we'll see how that goes. At least we'll get to square them up when we're done. So I'll go ahead and cut these in half. Okay, so a common mistake I see people make is they want to do that. That's wrong. You want to look at your picture really carefully, right? So we want to lay them out just like the picture. So like that and like that. So I'll be lining this edge up to right there and this edge up to there. No overlapping. We'll just line them up so they're even. Okay. Now they say I have to take the left one and do that first. That part doesn't make a hill of beans difference. And I'm used to going right over left. If you've been following my series, you know that, okay? So, just to make sure we're all on the right page, I'm going to take it like this. I'm going to line this up right here and sew this edge. So doing this, you can see now why my blue tape is useful. So I can't really see very well against the white background, but I can against the blue background to line this edge up. Oops, like that. Okay, a quick press. And I'll sew the other side on. Okay, so I have these all pressed. I'll line them up again. Line it up that way. I'm going to do this right over left. How about that? That'll be easier because this is the side I want to sew together. Not this side, right? Just to repeat, this can get confusing. Okay, so they're laying out like that. We're going to sew this side. All right, so those are sewed and they look good. Okay, our next step is to add the larger triangles. So we'll lay out our larger triangles. And now these will go like that. All right. That goes like that. That goes like that. Looking good. And then we're going to square them to 2.5 by 4.5. So I'm assuming I might have a little bit of leeway on these triangles. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to line up the bottom here. Okay, just like that. So I'm going to line up this corner and sew from the top. You don't have to line it up perfectly. But I just don't want to go over that because I know we're going to be trimming it down some. So I want to have plenty to trim up here at the top. And for some reason I didn't cut them very straight. Looks like they skewed on me a little bit. I'm going to try and straighten out that cut. I don't know what, but it just, it curved a little bit. So I'm going to try and straighten that out. See that? I don't know why I did it, but it makes a difference when you're sewing that on. Just a little bit off makes all the difference. So you guys get to see all my mistakes and how I fix them. So I guess that's good. That's much better. Like I said, I'm lining up the bottom corners here. And remember, you're working on a bias here too, so it's not unusual for them to stretch and get a little bit out of shape. So that's why I only cut them in half at the time I need it, because then I'm loosening up that bias edge. So that looks pretty good. Look at that, right at the point. It came out pretty darn perfect. First three look good. Huh, look at that. Pretty cool. Quick press. Okay, so those are all pressed. Next we'll add these. I am gonna check the curve on this one too, just to make sure that you would think if one side was curved, the other side would be too, but it's not, so who knows? Sometimes I just don't argue with the fabric. All right, so I'm gonna sew this edge. I'm flipping it around like that. And then I'm going to start with this corner edge. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing this. Let's see, can you see what I'm doing? Yeah. I wouldn't suggest pushing that edge in if you're not using a leader to sew off onto, because this will, on a lot of machines, it'll go right down into the feed dog. So if you're not doing this with the leader and ender, you might want to start on this end sewing instead. Okay, so unfortunately, all of my expensive microphone equipment quit working here. At least at some point I'll figure it out, I hope. But in the meantime, as you can see, I am simply finishing these flying geese units, and we'll fast forward through, and I'll do the best I can dubbing over the lost audio. Okay, so we finished those up. Now we need to square up these flying geese units, and for that we're going to use the Deb Tucker Flying Geese ruler called the Wing Clipper. I'm just pointing out the 2.5 by 4.5 inch lines there. And this line you'll lay on a seam line, and you'll lay that on the seam line. And so then you just lay those down right into that V. And you can see that line on the seam line. And lining it up very straight. There's my V. I got a little bit of a gap there on that left side that I'm pointing at. It should be okay though, it's not huge. I'm tweaking it just a little bit. Apparently it didn't line up just perfectly. So I am going to tweak it just a hair. And I'm taking it over to the iron and pressing it back into place and doing the best I can. So I tried to bring it together with a little bit of steam iron is what I was trying to show you there. So it comes together a little bit better. We'll go ahead and trim it. Meeting at the top there with the V shape at the top. I have a little X mark on the ruler. That line matches. The bottom line, you just get it to match as best you can. It's nice when you have more than one spot to lay it down on and match. If you're right-handed, you're going to trim up the right side and across the top. If you're left-handed, you're going to trim up the left side. Just have to move it a little bit. And turn it around. Set that 2.5 by 4.5 inch line right on the good side you just trimmed. Should all line up nicely. Still have your X at the top to line up that peak. And then again, trim up the right side and across the top. Perfect, perfect. Doing it again. Okay, moving on to unit 2. We're just attaching these two units together. Our flying geese and then our inset flying geese. Sew them on together. And that's all we're doing here. So here I'm just pointing out the 1/4 inch seam allowance at the peak of those and how I pressed towards the left on the big, so like I'm pressing towards the big flying geese. And now we're just putting in the middle of our block and lining it all up. Okay, so now we're just laying our block out and we'll start sewing it together here pretty darn soon. Make sure you have it all orientated correctly so that all those little flying geese are pointing towards the middle. Stand back, take a look at it. Does it look right? That's the question. It must. I'm starting to sew it together. I always do the right over left thing. It just kind of helps me be consistent and do things correctly each time. The next decision we need to make is how are we going to press it. And so I'm pointing on the one side, pressing it down, and pointing on the other side to press it up. You get some pretty thick seams right there. So we're just figuring out how to press. And then the next row we want it to nest, so we're going to press those the opposite way, and that's why I laid it out like I did there. Okay, just laid it all back out. Now we're going to sew the last two rows together, and we're almost done. Okay, you can see me kind of matching those seams together. I will stick a pin in there just to match it. And you can, if it's not too much bulk on either the top or the bottom, I just use my stiletto there to kind of persuade it into place. I don't get any creases or anything like that, no pleats in it. But you can just kind of ease it in with that stiletto and have that pin there just to meet right at the seam line. And I do the same thing on the end too. You might see me here either pin it so that the ends meet or just use my stiletto. One or the other I'll do. I just take my sewing 4 inches at a time and then they match up perfectly, so it works pretty good for me. Okay, so you see me finishing up the last row. I want to apologize to you for the video or the audio stopping on me. I thought I bought a pretty good system. I'm using the Qnique WS60 units, and I don't know, I think I spent a little more than $300 on it for a wireless microphone, and it'll start screeching and making all sorts of horrible noise unbeknownst to me when I'm doing the recording, and then it just stops all things. So I don't know. I've asked for help from the company and they don't seem to help. So any of you guys out there who have answers to that, I sure would love it if you would put that in the comments below our video here. But there's the block all laid out. It's a beautiful block. So we are now complete with block 7. I appreciate you watching my videos and hanging in there with me. It's a new venture for me doing these videos. So thanks for watching, guys. And the next video will be out shortly.